Hello everybody, Daz is here. Welcome to episode 4 of Green Lantern build. Today we start talking about water cooling, finally. There's a few considerations that I had in mind and I'd like to outline them for you. The main problem about this build relates to the size of this case. It's very small, there's limited number of things I can do. There's pretty much predefined places where radiators goes, what size of radiators and things like this. So the main problem I was facing, and I was looking for a solution for a while on background of, on back of my mind, was the fact that it makes sense to put certain components on the bottom chamber of this case, such as maybe pump and reservoir maybe, and just route tubing on top and water cool all business on the motherboard side. But the problem is that the bottom of the case is not that easily removable, and to access it for maintenance purposes or even to fill or drain the system kind of complicated. So I considered to put something on that portion that created to put your hard drives. So if you need something, you remove that part and that all your water cooling business is attached to, and probably use some sort of extra length of flexible tube to allow to pull my water cooling business out. The second solution was try to see if we can keep all water cooling business above the motherboard. Also the space for doing so is absolutely small, so it was really hard to do such thing. And while deciding how to overcome such a space constraints, I came in couple conversations with a few of my customers who decided that they would like to purchase EK Waterblocks Predator unit, but mod hell out of it. So to break it apart and make something else. And that kind of sparked something in my head that it's not that bad idea. So I decide to go different route this time, and we will be going to use dual EK Waterblocks Predator all in one unit that we will break apart. We'll use only reservoir portion and pump and radiator section of it, but the tubing we're going to use hard tube. We'll see what kind of CPU block we're using, things like this. And it will be a very interesting project in my mind. So before I start breaking apart this Predator unit that we have here, I just wanted to mention that for this particular build, the all-in-one unit could be probably the easiest. I wouldn't want to call it ideal, because it is in a certain ways unless you're a modder. If you're a modder, all-in-one units never can be ideal. But logically speaking, it could be very easy build for me if I would use those two components. Predator unit, all-in-one, and pre-filled GPU block from EK. So in this case, I would slap this block on my 1080. I put Predator in, put the GPU in, connect everything with tubing. Maybe tubing will be a little bit too long for this particular size of the case, so ideally it could be looks better if you kind of cut tubing a little bit, but even if you don't want to do so, you just bend tubing inside, and the water cooling part of this project would take me literally maybe about an hour to install GPU block, and then you just bolt everything together, maybe another hour max. So in 2 hours you can have a fully water cool custom loop, not custom but water cooling loop, up and running, complete, and the project will be over. But what kind of fun it could be to do that water cooling section so fast. So we'll go through the entire pile of pain of breaking Predator, breaking pre-filled unit, and we will be mod hell out of it. And I already started, so I didn't want to break Predator specifically because I would like to do certain things to paint it and maybe try to see any other items that might be happening with it, and I would like to film it as well to show you if there will be any interesting things to see. So for now we do some preliminary talk, but I would like to mention that I already tested a few things, and for example for the GPU block I already took EK black backplate, primed it and painted it in the green, It's not particularly fits like exactly matching because it's really hard to match exact color, but in a tone it's very close, so it looks pretty good. So we're going to have painted backplate for GPU. I also would like to paint the same color shroud of this Predator all-in-one unit, and I also have a custom made power extension that also between all those colors, so everything will be in the same tone. It's not be exactly the same color, but it will be the same tone, and I think it looks pretty sick, at least from my personal liking, which is most important for me because I'm the one who will be looking at this computer for a while after the series is over. So let's start working on the unit. If there's anything interesting arises, I will obviously show you. Not sure it will be one day task or probably will be a few days task, but I will compose hopefully interesting video out of it. And if there are any important tips and tricks for people who would like to follow a similar route, make sure I will tell you what this is all about. Let's start work. What I have here is a Predator without hose. I didn't show you how to unscrew two fittings and drain the liquid out of it, but it's a very primitive task. So I think if you're not comfortable to do that, you're unlikely you'll be comfortable to do anything further we're going to do. So let's keep on this portion. What I would like to do, the first thing is, oh, it's a lot of screws. So basically I would like to paint the shroud, but as it looks for me, I need to unscrew two screws here, two screws here. Fans also attached to the shroud, so 4 screws for the fans, and in order to slide it away I need to remove that side panel, so quite a little bit of work to perform so I can access to this part separate and I can paint it, because I don't want to mask parts with masking tape and do it this way. It's just too much work, easier to remove it. But before we do so, I would like to know if I also can paint this little thingy. I'm not sure what's behind. It could be open reservoir portion of it and some liquid would came out, but let's basically find out. And here you go. Oh, good. Some liquid from my draining process. Nothing special here, so no reservoir open up, so which it means I can paint that green for the show. So this is part number 1 that needs to be painted, and let's work on the rest. Oh, actually, first part we need to remove is those two. So, right, okay, so what we have here, we just open actual radiator that is inside, and shroud is just can be slide this way very easily. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Oh, this is interesting. The problem is that I think cable is not long enough to allow me to disassemble the thing correctly. Okay. Alrighty. And this PCB actually attached permanently to the shroud, so as much as I don't want to mask anything, I have to mask this portion of it. Alright, before I disconnect those cables, better make a picture. Always a good rule. It's not like it's hard to miss it, but better not risking it. And finally, we can get rid. Well, some screws look like hitting into radiator, but seems like okay. Anyways, that's guys how the actual radiator core looks. Usually you have some shroud around it, permanently attached. This is just a core, small radiator, probably equivalent of 25, 27, 30 millimeter type of radiator here, but it should be enough for our purposes. 1080 is very highly efficient. Also, I will have 3600K. I don't believe it will produce enough heat to max the system out, but even if it is, we always can add extra radiator. And so that's the radiator portion, which I need to prime and paint. And the plan to have it the same color as this thingy. Not exactly matching my case, but close enough. And it will looks good with the cables I'm making too. And voila, as I say, a few days later, I got my shroud painted in green instead of black. Also painted a little plate that goes on the pump side. I decided to keep this plate in black, so we have a little bit of combination of black and green colors together. And the last thing left to put this assembly back in place. Hopefully I do it right. And after that I can try to mount bigger parts, GPU block and radiator and pump and reservoir assembly, and see what we can do about tubing. But let's assemble this thing first. Usually it's easier to break things, oops, than to put them together, but we will do our best. So what we need to do first is to put those grommets in place. Well, of course, it's not like powder coated quality. I wouldn't lie to you guys, I just used spray can. I don't have a painting booth or any fancy equipment, but nevertheless, doesn't mean you can't do little modifications like that to make things nice. My little secret that I use, I not only paint parts that I need to get paint, but I also put a clear coat on it, and it protects paint a little bit from scratching to a certain degree, of course, yeah, but it also enhances color, so it's getting a little bit more bright than usual matte color you have, right? So yeah. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I finished this little modding for the Predator unit. Small paint job, takes a couple days to do it properly, and I think it will be looks quite nice together with the rest of the items we're using here. Something like this. A little bit tight fit, but still we can put it in. Get a little bit of green stuff going on here. I'll try not to scratch it if necessary. And we have a similar colored GPU, simple acetal block, but with green backplate as well. And I'm not a big fan of MX block, to be honest with you, that comes with the Predator. And I had a relatively old HF, EK HF block, which is basically the same thing, just a slightly different design, laying around, and I'm going to use that. So it will be just acetal with the old EK engraving, which is I like a little bit more than this little silver locker that is on every EK product, and sometimes it looks nice, sometimes it looks a little bit distracting. So I think this will be a little bit nicer look within what I'm envisioning in my head. So that's the next step, CPU block installation, fitting all parts together, and hardest decision making about tube routing. But for today's episode, I think it's enough to to make you 20 minutes or so of entertainment. So see you soon with episode 5.